Body. Today we're going to discuss a very helpful sutra which is called the Mahācattārīsaka Sutta, 117th sutra of the Majjhima Nikaya, about the Noble Eightfold Path. Now I think you know what is the middle path, which means the Noble Eightfold Path. But today we're going to discover what we don't know about this path in general understanding. So I think this is the sutra that I have found to my understanding, which has everything about the Noble Eightfold Path, especially the meaning of the name Mahācattārīsaka has something to understand. Now Cattārīsaka means 40. So there are 40 factors associated with the Noble Eightfold Path. How do we say this path in Sinhala? Arya Ashtanga Marga. I think you know the 8 components, right? Can somebody of you name them in order? Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. So these are the 8 components of the Noble Eightfold Path or middle path. Now this sutra, I would give you kind of a hint about the sutra. There are 40 factors associated with the Noble Eightfold Path. So we're going to discover what they are. The second important thing is there are 2 levels of 5 components. Now you understand Sammaditthi as being Sammaditthi, but there are 2 levels of Sammaditthi up until Samma Ajiva. So Ditti, Sankappa, Vacha, Kammanta, Ajiva. In the first 5 components there are 2 levels. Okay, and those 2 levels are not mentioned in the other 3 components. So we're going to discuss why is that change happened there, why is something like that involved with those 5, and many more associated with all these factors. I hope that not many people know this sutra and what the sutra is talking about. At the beginning of the sutra, Buddha says, Ariyang vo bhikkhave samma samadhin desissami saupanisang saparikkarang tang sunata sadukang manasi karota basissamiti. I will teach you noble right concentration with its supports and its requisites. Listen, attend closely to what I shall say. Now I have a problem. The problem is, what is Samma? It is right or something else. Now there are a lot of names given by many scholars and non-scholars. Now a scholar like Bhikkhu Bodhi translate this to be right, and then the other side automatically becomes wrong. And a monk like Venerable Punaji, he translates this to be harmonious and non-harmonious. I know some scholars that they have some understanding to be perfect and imperfect, perfect view and imperfect view. A lot of translations that have been given and that scholars and non-scholars think them to be. So to be on the safer side, I would say I would use the Pali term, because now if you're going to translate Buddha, you might say the blessed one, the awakened one, but none of these words may reflect the precise, accurate Buddha, because he uses the Pali words. That's why Buddha has become Buddha in the dictionaries, right? So but sometimes we have to find out meanings, explanations, but at this point I would say Samma and Miccha. Okay, because when you see the term right and wrong in this understanding, right and wrong basically comes in the jurisprudence, like the law terms, right? I'm right, I was right in making this turn and you were wrong and I have the right of way, something like a legal and jurisprudence based usage. So I would think that sometimes right things might not be moral, You could go and buy a gun and you could go hunting. It's legal. It's right. But that's not morally good. This is the problem. You could buy a kind of something and go for fishing, right? But that is legal, right? But it's not morally good. So that's the problem. So I would leave the term as to be samma. Okay. Now, Buddha says the first component called samma ditti always influences all the factors, including samma ditti. Because samma ditti is like you are actually you first need to figure out, right, that perspective. If you don't have the perspective, you don't know whether it is a good intention, whether it's a good thought, whether it is a good word, whether it is a good living, whether it's a good action, right? So you should have the perspective first. So samma ditti affects and influences most of the factors here. Let's go. Now, we will discuss the sutra this way. First, we're going to talk about what is miccha side. Miccha ditti, miccha. So, miccha side. The bad side of these components. And then we talk about the good side, which is called samma. And then we'll see the two levels of the first 5, and then we'll see how the rest goes. Okay. So what is miccha ditti? I think we talked about samma ditti in many places in our previous talks, especially samma ditti sutta. I think in the Chula Vedala Sutta we talked about this. There were numerous examples and teachings of samma ditti. But in this context, which the Buddha talks about and discusses about Noble Eightfold Path, there is something unique and special. We will see what Buddha talks about, how Buddha actually teaches us samma ditti and miccha ditti. So first, miccha ditti. Miccha ditti basically means 10 things. Now, what are the 10 things? If someone does not believe there is, these things actually, there is nothing given. It's about generosity. So you give something, you don't believe that there is no effect, there is no results associated with that. But you are generous, not because there are results, not because there are effects, but you know this is based on the karma. So if there is nothing given, there is nothing offered. So the person who is into samma miccha ditti, things like this, there is nothing given. That means there is no vipaka or effects from generosity. There is nothing offered. So basically, you give things to people, you offer things to the blessed people, like monastic. You offer dani, right? Offer food, that you give things, right? So it's something special. There is nothing sacrifice. Actually, we sacrifice, things for like people, like great people, right? So we usually sacrifice like these things to like those religious based things. Sometimes this is not a one-way explanation. People who sacrifice their sacrifice was a Hindu term. Actually, there were many sacrifices at that time, which we call yagas, right? But now every yaga has to be moral, but Buddha says yaga has an effect, right? You can't say there is no effect, right? Oh, now what happens in the yaga is that there is one goat called Agni, and there are many other goats. We call the polytheon of goats. So you offer food and other things to the goat called Agni, because Agni is fire, and then you believe in that Agni passes those gifts to other goats. That was the main type of sacrifice in Hinduism. But when it comes to Buddhist rituals, we also sacrifice sometimes food, and we actually put them the same way. So we need to believe that there are effects associated with those things, actions. Anyway, there is nothing sacrificed. This is how the person who is into miccha ditti thinks. There is no results of good and bad karma. There is no this world, there is no other world. This is not the next world. Other world, there could be, now I understand there are multiple universes, not just one universe now, according to the recent researches of the sciences. Multiple universes, not one universe and many worlds. So multiple universes, plenty of worlds in them. There is no mother, no father. If someone is to believe I have no father, I have no mother, that means basically the respect, gratitude towards their parents. So if someone is not thinking that way, respectful and grateful, that person is into Micchāditthi. There are no beings who are reborn spontaneously. What's the spontaneous birth? Opapātika. Do you know the beings who reborn spontaneously? All the heavenly beings are spontaneous beings, right? They have no mother, no father, right? That's how it's explained. No God has a, I don't know, the Buddhist, according to Buddhist teachings, they are upapātikas. So if you don't believe that there are beings who reborn spontaneously, then you are into Micchāditthi. If you believe that, so I mean, just kind of a belief, right? But you haven't seen that. You don't see. So that means you might not trust it by your direct experience. But there is an understanding. These heavenly beings are reborn spontaneously, without those parental lineage. The last one, 10th one, there are no good and virtuous recluses like monks and those monastic people who have realized the direct knowledge by themselves and declare this world and other worlds. So all the such monks and nuns and beings in the Brahma worlds also, they have understood the truth, the wisdom by themselves, and then they declare that based on their understanding. So the person who is into Micchāditthi does not believe this thing. So there are 10 things. So if someone is not believing these 10, that means he or she is into Micchāditthi. Now I told you at the beginning, there are 2 levels in the first 5 components. So pick the Sammaditthi, right? So we talked about the Micchāditthi. Now how does that go? Actually, this means one level, the first level, the primary level is about the people who have taints like us, right? We call them Sāsava Punyabhagya Upadivepakka. Those Pali terms. Sāsava means those of the beings who have taints. Taints mean, we talked about taints, Asrava. Asrava. We have taints, so many taints, right? Kāmasava, Bhavasava, then Avijjasava. There are taints, right? Punyabhagya, those of them, now these beings who have taints, they do merits, punya karma, right? And who keep the continuity of the 5 aggregates. Now we keep the continuity of the 5 aggregates, right? So we have the 5 aggregates. So we continue that, right? So those beings, they can come up to a right view that is affected by taints, partaking of merits, and have a continuity of the 5 aggregates. Actually, if we want to get up to Sammaditthi, this is the Sammaditthi level that we may come to at this point. Because the other one is particularly for the people who have already attained the Nibbana. It's called Ariya Anasava Lokuttara Magga. Now, when someone becomes an Arahant, don't think that person does not follow the Noble Eightfold Path after that. They also, because now once they became an Arahant, what is their path like? Their path is the same Noble Eightfold Path. They also follow these 8 actually. But they don't follow the first level, they follow the second level. Because they already follow the first level to become an Arahant before, right? So we'll take a look at the the second level. So that that deep level of samadhi, right? Yako bhikkave ariya chittassa anasava chittassa. So that actually that is born in the mind of the noble. That means in an arahant. Ariya magga samangino ariya maggam bhavetu panya panyindriyang panya balang dhamma vichya sambojjangu sammaditthi maggangyang ayang uchchati bhikkave sammaditthi ariya anasava lokuttara magganga. So now an arahant, whoever already attained the nibbana, could be a Buddha, it could be a Pacceka Buddha, it could be an arahant. Now, what is their sammaditthi like? This is their sammaditthi. The wisdom, the faculty of wisdom, the power of wisdom, investigation of states and awakening factor, the path factor of right view in one whose mind is noble. So basically, what they do to practice sammaditthi is to practice wisdom. That is what they do. Now, what we do in the basic level of sammaditthi is we don't believe in those micchaditti, 10 types of micchaditti. Then we become into sammaditthi. Then we come up to sammaditthi. But for the arahants, their sammaditthi is not that. They are higher than that. What they do is they continue, they maintain, they practice wisdom. So what is wisdom in the Buddha's teachings? It's a good question. It's a very, very normal question. What is wisdom? How does wisdom arise in us according to the Buddhism? Okay, I will explain to you. That's a kind of off topic at this point, but I will tell you. You know sati and sampajanya, right? You know sati? What is sati? Focusing the attention. That's what we've been doing all the days, right? So we focus our attention because our attention is already shifted, always shifted and drifting away all the time. So we need to focus that towards something that we really want that to be. Sati is basically focusing attention. Sampajanya is the awareness of the movements of your mind and body. That is sampajanya. So Buddha says sati and sampajanya, focusing attention and the awareness of the movements of your mind and body, these two should go in tandem. If you only develop sati or sampajanya, then you won't be progressing in that way. So you need to practice the both at the same time in the meditation. And then what happens? Sati and sampajanya alone would not make sense. Then where is the skill, akusala and akusala part of the sati and sampajanya, or the which you call skillful and unskillful part of the sati and sampajanya? So you need to do samma vayama. I think we talked about that before. What is samma vayama? Samma vayama means effort, right? Effort. So now you have sati and sampajanya that has no element of kusala and akusala. So kusala and akusala elements are going to be added at this point. So what is samma? We're going to talk about them too at a later time here. So samma vayama means to develop your skillful habits. That means develop kusala. And the second one is to abandon unskillful habits that you already have. So you might be snappy, you might be grumpy at some point, you might be impatient, you might talk bad of other people. I don't think you might do it. You will do it. You might be jealous, incessantly, unnecessarily. You might, a lot of things associated with, unskilled stuff. So anyway, so develop the skillful habits you already have. Abandon the unskillful habits you already have. Not even them. Generate, produce or generate efforts about the non-emerging, non-arising skillful habits. Now, for example, like let's say people around me may have a good skillful habit that I don't have, but I know it's a good thing. So I know that this is really good for me because let's say I understand that one of my friends maybe more patient than me in figuring out a problem. So why I don't learn from that person and make that happen, let that happen in my life. So something like that. So you generate an effort for the non-arising skillful habit from anybody. Could be a friend, could be somebody, could be that you see online. Positivity, inspiration stuff. The last one is generate effort for non-arising generate effort not to happen the non-arising unskillful habits. So you are not that jealous, but people are that jealous because you are already having skillful habits about that particular thing. Why you want to let that happen in your life? You don't need that. So you are giving some effort not make that happen in your life. So you're already good. Let's continue that good thing. So that is Samma Vayama. Now Sati Sampajanya and Samma Vayama, these four. Now what will happen? You are into Yoniso Manasikara. Have you heard this term before? Yoniso Manasikara. When you have Sati Sampajanya and when you continue Sati Sampajanya with Samma Vayama, Atapi, then you are into Yoniso Manasikara. What is Yoniso Manasikara? Appropriate attention. Now your attention has been focused to a skillful thing. You have the attention, you have the awareness, but you have focused that, you have made that to a skillful habit. That is not enough. You have to further go. Then what happens when you are into Yoniso Manasikara, appropriate attentions, which some scholars name it to be as the wise attention, I would say, appropriate attention. Then what will happen? Now you are good to go to Panya. Now you can go to Panya without Yoniso Manasikara. You can go to Yoniso Manasikara without Sati Sampajanya Samma Vayama. Now what is Panya in that context then? Then what is Panya then? Panya is to see things as they are. But what is the methodology of making that happen? Sabbe Sankara Anicchati, Sabbe Sankara Dukkhati, Sabbe Dhamma Anattati. That means all the conditions, things are subject to change for a positive or negative or mixed change. Right? And then because the change is going to happen, could happen, then there could be an unsatisfaction associated with the changes. We are not always happy for the changes, right? So that is the second thing, dukkha. Anatta means at the end, if you really look into the changes and unsatisfaction, we may understand, you can't call that is mine, I, myself, right? Because we have no good control of our body too at some point, right? Because we leave the body when we die, right? So this is Panya. When you see anything, condition, or most of the time we have the conditioned things, sankharas, right? The only unconditioned thing is Nibbana. That is not conditioned. That is why we call it asankrata. All the others are sanskaras, right? There's only one asanskara, that is Nibbana. So when you see the sanskaras true, change, unsatisfaction or dissatisfaction, and that not self, then that is called Panya. That is the Panya the Arahants going to practice in this level of Sammaditthi. I think it makes sense. And then not even that. Now Buddha says Sammaditthi influences most of the components of these 8. Not even that, Samma Vayama and Samma Sati, give me a second. Samma Vayama and Samma Sati also influence. Now let's say you understand that this is the mundane level of Sammaditthi, the belief that you believe in those 10. So you are into mundane level of Samadhi. And this is the extra mundane level of Sammaditthi, which we call Panya, wisdom. Now, to make that happen, you need effort. Without effort, you can't make that happen. That is why Samma Vayama also influences most of the components. And then what happens? You also need Samma Sati, because you should be able to have a focus on all these things to circle around and to run. You understand? So that means Samma Ditti influences, Samma Vayama influences, Samma Sati influences most of the components in understanding the path. Now, for example, right view or Sammaditthi comes first. How does Sammaditthi come first? Micca sankappoti pajanati. Samma sankappoti pajanati. One understands Micca as Micca sankappa as Micca sankappa, and Samma sankappa as Samma sankappa. So you need Sammaditthi to do that. Okay, now we're going to talk about Micca Sankappa. Now we talk about Micca Ditti. So belief in, have no belief in those 10, that is Micca Ditti. And Sammaditthi has two parts, mundane Sammaditthi and extra mundane Sammaditthi. And now we are moving on to the Micca Sankappa, the second component. What is Micca Sankappa? There are 3 intentions that are not good. What are they? Actually, the opposite side of Nekkhamma Sankappa, and then Vyapada Sankappa, Avyapada Sankappa, and then Avihimsa Sankappa. Actually, a lot of translations have go in a way that they talk about Nekkhamma Sankappa means thoughts of attachment to the thoughts of sensual pleasures. I don't think that we can agree with that, because we have some normal basic likings towards things, right? We like to live, we like to eat without attaching to the food, right? Without attaching to many things. I guess like this is something about greed. So attachment, intentions associated with the greed of sensual pleasures. So basic likings are okay, because we need to have a liking, right? Without that liking, we can't live. Even you can come and listen to this Dhamma talk. You have a liking to come and live, right? But what is being greedy about, something that you need this food definitely, without any, problem, and you can have your food without that thing with you. So you are so much greedy about food and those things, then it's a problem. So that is a bad intention, right? Intentions of ill will. What is ill will? Thoughts of assassinating, destroying other people. Basically, on the side of mentality. You don't show that, but you have those thoughts. And then intentions of cruelty. Sometimes people might come up with thoughts that I want to harass people, beings. So those 3 thoughts. So thoughts of greed about the sensual pleasures, thoughts of ill will, thoughts of cruelty. These are the bad type of thoughts. So which we understand by Micca Sankappa. Now we have to find out what is the mundane Samma Sankappa, what is the extra mundane Samma Sankappa. It's pretty easy. Nekkhamma, Avyapada, Avihimsa, these 3 are related to the mundane Samma Sankappa. That means we all can do those 3, right? Basically. So we can avoid greed in the sensual pleasures. We can avoid coming up with thoughts of intentions of ill will. We can avoid of coming up with thoughts of cruelty, right? That is mundane. That is a possibility. But what is the extra mundane Samma Sankappa? The same thing, but something different. Buddha says, Ariya Chittasya Anasava Chittasya Ariya Magga Samangino Ariya Maggam Bhavetu. The person who has a mind of nobility, who has already been an Arahant, has this kind of way of thinking. Takko vitakko sankappo appana vyappana chetaso abhiniropana vachi sankaru. That means now Arahants have already eradicated greed, ill will and cruelty. So they have no business with them. They already finished all those things, abandoned. But now what they do at this point under the supramundane type of samma sankappa, they think they're trying to have the mental absorption, they're trying to have mental fixity, they are directing their mind, they are trying to develop their good verbal formations. That's what they're going to do at samma sankappa. It's kind of deep, huh? But this is what we have to understand, Anyway, and then what happens? Samma vayama, samma sati help both of samma the mundane type of samma sankappa and supramundane type of samma sankappa. And then miccha vacha. What is miccha vacha? Lying, slandering, harsh speech and idle chatting. So these are the four types of bad, verbal misconduct. So that is miccha vacha. But then what is the mundane type of samma vacha, mundane type of good words? It's pretty easy to understand. That's the opposite side of those four. Not lying, not slandering, not involving in the harsh speech, not idle chatting, right? So that is the mundane, that is what we all try to do every day. But what is then the supramundane type of samma vacha? Actually the same thing, same four, but the Arahants practice these four in a very different way, in a higher way. What they do is that they desist, they abstain, they refrain from these four. They abstain from lying, from harsh speech, from slandering, from idling. Abstain, refrain. There are three Pali words: arati, pirati, pativirati. So they develop that to a very higher standard, right? That's what they do. Not like us, we just simply avoid lying, we simply avoid harsh speech, we simply avoid idle chatting. But they develop those four to a very good standard at this point. And then samma kammanta, miccha kammanta. What is miccha kammanta? What are the what is the bad side of our actions? Three actions, right? Killing, stealing, and then sensual misconduct. So these are the three bad actions. So that is miccha kammanta. So then what is the mundane type of samma kammanta, action, good action? Basically to not to execute killing, stealing and sensual misconduct. Then what is the extra mundane type of samma kammanta? The same thing, Arahants also refrain from these three, but they develop to a higher standard. Same words: arati, virati, pativirati. Do you remember these three words? Arati, virati, papa, majjapanacha sanyamo in the Mangala Sutra. Arati, virati has a higher meaning actually. It's not a simple refraining, abstaining. It's like a higher, it's like a deeper way of refraining from these any bad thing. Now we come to the fifth component, which is the last one, which has no two levels after this until the eighth one. Some miccha ajiva. What is miccha ajiva? Now Bhikkhu Bodhi has translated this to be a livelihood. It's like a job. So I don't think like anybody is going to think about any job at this point. This could be something like living, kind of a living, right? But what is bad type of living? Miccha ajiva. Kuhana, lapana, nemitti kata, nippesi kata, labena labang, nijigin sanata. What is kuhana? Scheming. Scheming is like a underhand business. People do a lot of time. Underhand business. Like you talk about something, but there's something going behind the scene. Like that's not a good way of earning money. That's the miccha bad way of living, right? Lapana is you talk like the way you talk, how you talk, what you talk, actually helps other people to be the victims of the deal. Actually, sometimes when some people talk, they talk in a nice way, and the people who are going to have a deal with them, they are getting very interested. And then what happens? But he is a good talker, he's going to do a different thing behind the scene. Sometimes people talk, and then but there is a business going on there, right? Nemitti hinting. There are some people who hint for the job. Hinting like, I don't think this is type of a sarcasm, what do you think about sarcasm? This is good to be sarcastic, sometimes, right? But people are going to be sarcastic or having a life of hinting so that they can find a lot of money, kind of a business. Sometimes belittling, nippesikata. You kind of underscore the real value of something, and then you kind of trying to show the other party this is not a good thing, not a very expensive, very interesting, very important thing, but this is really interesting, very expensive thing, but you deviating that thing from that person because you want to make money out of it, right? People do that, right? Especially in the business, right? Marketing. I'm not like blaming on marketing, but people can do that. People can, mislead people by belittling, hey, this is not a good one, and just leave it. But this is very important. So we have to find out experts, right? Labena labang nijagin sanata, pursuing gain with gain. Sometimes people do that. There was a monk, I will tell you a story in the commentary. There was a monk who came to a house for alms round, Pindapata, and the lady was very cunning, and at that time there was no other way, because people did not bring dana to temples at that time. All the monks had to go for Pindapata. And then the lady said, Hamduru, I will go out and then see whether my friends have some food or stuff in their houses. And this monk is not an arahant. So when she was away, he went into the kitchen of the lady, right? And then he saw the things in the kitchen. Looks like he went from the back door, And then what happened? She did not show up, and he saw, and he came out, and then he's like standing still. Now the woman came out, said, "I'm very sorry, I couldn't find any food." And then the monk said, "I knew this before I came here." How you knew that? The lady was actually questioning from the monk. I actually I saw I saw like things, different things, like I saw a very big snake, cobra, right? That cobra is similar to something inside the kitchen. I can't remember what he exactly said. Something like something inside the kitchen. And then what happened was that I was terrified looking at the cobra. It was like next to me. And then I actually I was trying to find a rock, and that rock was as similar as your jaggery inside the kitchen. And then what happened? Then the cobra was so pissed off, and then something came out from his mouth. That was something inside your kitchen. That was like butter, something inside your kitchen. And now the lady knew that she can do it. She went inside and made food and ate. So that's not good. Like you try to use your understanding to push people to gain things, like something like that. So this is not only a common thing to a monk. This can happen to anybody. Like sometimes I know people, when they see something nice, they say, how did you receive this? And say, my friend gave to me. Yeah, and something called the gift that was passed from one friend to the other friend, it is nicer. Tag in tag utum tag. So give it to me. So you are in big trouble. You can help not giving that to that person. So you are making that thing to that extent. It's not good. So labena labang nijjikinsanta seems to be pursuing gain with gain. That's not a good way of earning money, having a life. You are like pretty much, pretty much pestering other people, for your life. So that is miccha ajiva. So the avoidance of these ones, scheming, talking, hinting, excessive talking, hinting, belittling, pursuing gain with gain, that is the mundane type of samma ajiva living. What is the extra mundane type of samma ajiva? That is the same, arati, virati, pativirati. So desisting, abstaining, refraining from these scheming, talking, hinting, belittling, pursuing gain with gain. Now what happens? The classification of the two levels stop at this point, and then what happens? Then there is samma vayama. We talked about what is samma vayama, right? There are 4 types of effort, right? To develop your skillful habits, to abandon your unskillful habits, generate effort for the non-arising skillful habit, generate effort for not happening the non-arising unskillful habit. That is samma vayama. Samma sati is focusing attention. Samma samadhi is concentration. So they have no 2 levels. So that means that samma, that good type is the good type for both of the people. Now what happens at the end of the sutra. That is where we're going to actually wrap this up. Now Buddha says, when you have samma ditti, then there is no place for miccha ditti, right? Because you are into samma ditti. So when you have samma sankappa, there is no place for miccha sankappa. When you have samma vacha, there is no place for miccha vacha. It's like it goes this way. But there is an interesting thing happening at the end of the 8. Buddha adds another 2. Samma jnana, samma vimutti. That means miccha jnana, miccha vimutti. So there are 10. How does that happen? Itiko bhikkave attanga samannagato seko dasahanga samannagato araha hoti. There are 2 people going on here. One person who is yet to be disciplined. We call him as seka in Pali. Seka means the person who needs to practice. And the other person is arahan, who has already finished his disciplinary route. So he has 10. So since we are still practicing, we have to go for 8. And then what happens? Once you become an arahan, after that you go on 10. So that's an interesting thing actually here. Now what happens after samma samadhi? You get up to samma jnana. What is jnana? Do you see a difference between jnana and prajna? Yes. I remember a statement given by Krishnamurti sometime. Krishnamurti was a very famous philosopher at that time. Accumulation of knowledge is not the wisdom. That's what he was telling. Actually, it's true, because we acquire a lot of knowledge, sciences, humanities. That's not the wisdom, right? But at this point, what Buddha says is there is a good knowledge of the 4 noble truths here. Noble Eightfold Path. We need that. We need that knowledge. That is called samma jnana, and then samma vimutti is liberation. So that is good liberation, right? So jnana and panya sometimes associated in the same way, sometimes different. But Buddha says panya is that is the higher version of jnana, the most important thing. So now normal people like us, we have to practice 8. But after you become an arahant, you're gonna practice 10. That's a natural thing that happens after you became an arahant. Finally, now you have a question. I told you the meaning of the sutra to be 40 factors associated with the Noble Eightfold Path. How does that happen? Now there are 10 bad types of components. What are they? Miccha ditti, Miccha sankappa, Miccha vacha, Miccha kammanta, Miccha ajiva, Miccha vayama, Miccha sati, Miccha samadhi, Miccha jnana, Miccha vimutti. Because those two affect the arhants, right? So there are 10. And Buddha says there are another 10. What are they? Now Buddha says, Samma dittissa bhikkave miccha ditti nijjinna hoti. Yecha miccha ditti paccaya aneke papaka akusala dhamma sambhavanti. Te chassa nijjinna honti. Samma ditti paccayacha aneke kusala dhamma bhavana paripuran gati. Very interesting thing after the explanation of these two. In one of the samma ditti, in one who has a samma ditti, either mundane or extra mundane, miccha ditti is abolished. He or she has no miccha ditti after that. And the many akusala states that originate with miccha ditti as condition are also abolished. There are no elements to have them happen. And the many wholesome states, kusala, that originate with samma ditti as condition come to fulfillment by development. That means when you have samma ditti, then you develop kusala all the time. Any type of samma ditti. When you have miccha ditti, you develop akusala all the time. Now because of this thing, now I told you there are 10 miccha type of things. Another 10 based on based on the akusala side of those 10, which means miccha ditti creates akusala, miccha sankappa creates akusala, miccha vacha creates akusala, miccha vacha, miccha kammanta, miccha ajiva, miccha vayama, miccha sati, miccha samadhi, miccha jnana, miccha vimutti. They all create akusala. There are 10, and then and those previous 10, then they become 20 for the akusala side. And the same opposite is the kusala side. There are samma ditti, samma sankappa, samma vacha, samma kammanta, samma ajiva, samma vayama, samma sati, samma samadhi, samma jnana, samma vimutti, those 10. And because samma ditti creates kusala, because samma sankappa creates kusala, because samma vacha creates kusala, samma, like that up until samma jnana, there are another 10. So 20 multiplied by 20, sorry, 20 plus 20, 40. Mahācattārīsaka Sutta means the sutra on the great 40. But those 40 have been given in a very nice way. Now you know, Buddha says that in the Noble Eightfold Path, which we call Arasthayika Margaya Majjhima Patipada, there are 2 levels from the first component up until the 5th component, right? And you know that is mundane and supramundane and the miccha ditti. And also you know, each component has samma ditti, samma vayama, samma sati, because they need to they need actually those 3 are necessary factors for all the other components. Because if you don't have samma ditti, if you don't have samma vayama, if you don't have samma sati, you can practice any of these components. And then those 20 and then 40. So that's what we talk about today. So it's a very nice sutra. I think most of the explanations of Noble Eightfold Path do not talk about samma jnana, samma vimutti, and those 2 levels. So it's a very hidden thing. I think those explanations have not been reflective about these very good information about Noble Eightfold Path. So now I leave for a Q&A session. If you have any questions about this, you may ask questions. Is it something, a new knowledge about the Noble Eightfold Path that you learned today, or something that you already knew, that these 2 levels and that was new? Yeah. So it's good. To my understanding, this is the sutra, to my understanding, that deals with a very good descriptive analysis study about the Noble Eightfold Path, as far as I know. All the other sutras, they talk about one components, two components, something like that. So this is a very good place for somebody who really want to understand the Noble Eightfold Path, Majjhima Patipada, and to know that there are two people going on here. One is a normal person, the other one is an Arahant, or a Pacceka Buddha, or a Samma Sambuddha. There are no questions. We can share all the good karmas with the departed relatives and the deities, heavenly beings. Idamme ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo idamme ñāti sukhita huntu ñātayo idamme ñāti nang hotu huntu ñātayo ettavata ca amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabba sampatti siddhya ettavata ca amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta sabba sampatti siddhya ettavata ca amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta sabba sampatti siddhya ākāsattha ca bummattha deva naga mahindika punyantang chirang rakkang tuluka sāsanang ākāsattha ca bummattha deva naga mahindika punyantang chirang rakkang tudesanang ākāsattha ca bummattha deva naga mahindika punyantang chirang rakkang tumang paranti. Finally, let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating so far help all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana as well. Give a sadhu, and I'm going to bless you with a couple more stanzas. Abhivādana sīlisse niccang vaddhā pacāyino chattaru dhamma vaddanti ayuvannu sukhang balang ayurārogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevaca ato nibbāna sampatti imināte saminchatu.